In the early years of the Industrial Revolution, the world was in a state of rapid transformation. Every day, new technologies were invented, transportation links were established, and cities grew larger. At first, many people were excited and hopeful for the future. Then, one day, news spread of a mysterious virus that was causing people to become zombified. Initially, the virus seemed to be contained to a small region. However, as the world became more interconnected via transportation and communication technologies, the virus began to spread rapidly. It mutated, becoming more dangerous and even more contagious. In cities and towns, people began to panic, as the virus spread like wildfire. Soon, the zombie apocalypse was upon us. People locked themselves in their homes, hoping to stay safe from the infected. But the virus was relentless, and soon it had spread to different countries, infecting millions. The Industrial Revolution had enabled the virus to spread so quickly. New forms of transportation allowed the virus to move faster than ever before. Communication technologies allowed for misinformation and fear to spread even quicker. Governments scrambled to try and contain the virus, but it was too late. The zombie virus had taken over. People began to fight for survival, as humanity was pushed to the brink of extinction. Every day was a struggle against the zombie hordes. People had to find shelter and food, all while trying to stay alive. In some areas, survivors banded together to form organized groups and fight the zombies. In others, people looked out only for themselves, looting and stealing whatever they could. The world changed drastically. The Industrial Revolution had been a time of great progress and hope, but now it was only a distant memory. The world was in chaos, and it seemed like the zombie apocalypse would never end. But then, something miraculous happened. A group of scientists had been researching a cure for the virus, and they were finally able to find a way to stop the spread of the virus. The zombie apocalypse was finally over. People slowly began to rebuild their lives, although the world would never be the same. The Industrial Revolution had enabled the virus to spread so quickly, but it had also enabled the scientists to find a way to save humanity. The zombie virus had been a devastating reminder of how quickly the world can change. But it had also taught us to hope for the future, and to never take progress for granted. The American Revolution was a time of great conflict and upheaval, but none could have predicted the horror that was to come. One fateful night, the citizens of the colonies began to notice strange things happening. Dead birds had begun to fall from the sky, and strange, animal-like howls could be heard in the night. People began to whisper of the undead, of monsters that had risen from their graves. It didn't take long for the rumors to become reality. The undead had begun to rise, and soon they were everywhere. The colonists were ill-prepared for the onslaught of the undead, and in no time the colonies were overrun by hordes of the undead. The colonists quickly realized that their weapons were no match for the undead. It seemed that the only way to survive was to flee. So, the colonists began to flee, leaving their homes and possessions behind in a desperate attempt to escape the undead hordes. The colonists tried to keep their spirits up, but the fear of the undead was ever present. No one knew where the undead were coming from, or how to stop them. All they could do was keep running, and hope that somehow they would survive the zombie apocalypse. In the chaos, some colonists were able to form makeshift militias and fight back against the undead. The militias were able to hold back the hordes, but they could not stem the tide of the undead. Soon, the undead had spread across the colonies, and the colonies were a lost cause. The colonies had been overrun by the undead, and the American Revolution was all but forgotten. In the aftermath, the survivors of the zombie apocalypse formed an uneasy alliance. They pooled their resources and began to rebuild the colonies, determined to make sure that the zombie apocalypse would never happen again. They worked together to create a new system of government, one that respected the rights of all citizens. They also vowed to never forget the horrors of the zombie apocalypse, and to remember those who had sacrificed their lives to protect the colonies. Today, the United States of America stands as a testament to the courage of those who fought in the American Revolution. The zombie apocalypse is all but forgotten, but the legacy of the brave men and women who fought against the undead will never be forgotten. At the scientific lab, the team of researchers had been hard at work experimenting on cures to hypothetical viruses. The team had been made very clear that this was a high-risk endeavor, and they were to take special care not to expose themselves to any of the material they were working with. As the days progressed, the team was making great strides in their research, but one day, while the team was in the midst of an experiment, one of the researchers made a mistake. He accidentally cut himself with a scalpel, and some of the modified virus from their experiment got into his body. The researcher, not wanting to alarm the team, kept quiet about his injury, and took time off to rest and recover. Little did the team know that the modified virus had incubated inside of the researcher's body, and was slowly taking hold. The virus was so modified that it only presented as mild flu-like symptoms, so the researcher was able to fool the team into thinking he was just suffering from a cold, and he returned to work after a few days. Little did the team know, however, that the virus had become stronger, and was slowly taking over the researcher's body and mind. The virus had mutated, and become a zombie virus, and the researcher was slowly becoming a zombie. The rest of the team noticed a change in the researcher's behavior, but they attributed it to the stress and exhaustion of the project. They had no idea that the researcher was slowly becoming a zombie. It wasn't until one of the other researchers began to notice the odd behavior and started to investigate that the team discovered the truth. The researcher had been infected with the zombie virus, and he was slowly turning into a zombie. The team immediately shut down the lab and quarantined the scientist, but it was too late. The virus had spread too far, and the team had no way of stopping it. The news of the zombie virus spread quickly, and the team was blamed for the outbreak. The team was investigated, and the scientist who had been infected was put under guard, as the government tried to find a cure for the virus. The team worked tirelessly to find a cure, but it seemed impossible. The virus had mutated so much that it was unrecognizable, and there was no way to stop it. Finally, after months of research, the team discovered a way to neutralize the virus and stop the spread of the zombie virus. The team was able to develop a vaccine and distribute it to the public, and the zombie virus was eventually eradicated. Though the team was able to save the world from the zombie virus, the scientist who had been infected with it was never the same. He had to live with the guilt of being the one who caused the zombie virus, and he was never able to put the nightmare behind him. Though it was a terrible experience, the team was able to learn a valuable lesson from it. They learned the importance of safety in the lab, and the importance of being careful with the experiments they were conducting. They also learned the importance of being aware of the potential consequences of their actions. The planet colony was once a thriving settlement, teeming with life and joyous inhabitants. But recently, something strange had been happening. People were acting strangely, as if they were mindless drones, with no will of their own. At first, the locals assumed it was just a strange phase, but as time went on, it became clear that something was very wrong. People were no longer in control of their actions, and it was spreading like a virus. The cause of the strange behavior was eventually discovered to be a parasite that had slipped into the planet's atmosphere from a passing asteroid. It had quickly found a suitable host and spread itself throughout the colony. The parasite had taken over the minds of its host, making them into mindless zombies that were driven to infect others. It was a frightening and mysterious force, and its control over its victims was absolute. The inhabitants of the planet colony soon found themselves in a dire situation. They had to find a way to stop the spread of the parasite before it was too late. They had to act quickly, or risk becoming another casualty in the parasite's relentless march. The people of the colony turned to their leader for help. He was a wise and experienced man, and he had a plan. He gathered the people together and explained the situation. He told them that they must work together to find a way to eradicate the parasite. The plan he devised was simple but effective. He had the people of the colony gather in one place, and then he released a powerful energy blast to wipe out the parasite. It worked, and the people were safe once again. The people of the planet colony had been lucky, but they still had to face the consequences of the parasite's actions. It had caused a great deal of destruction, and many of the people had been affected by its presence. The leader of the colony decided to implement a new system of checks and balances to make sure that this never happened again. He put in place a strict security protocol to detect any signs of infection, and he also created a network of healers and scientists to help treat any victims that had been affected by the parasite. The people of the planet colony were relieved, but they were still wary. They knew that they had been lucky this time, but they feared that the parasite may return one day. They had to stay vigilant and keep an eye out for any signs of infection. The people of the planet colony had learned a valuable lesson. They had seen firsthand the destruction that an unchecked parasite could cause, and they had also seen the power of working together to find a solution. They continued to live in peace and harmony, and they never forgot the lesson they had learned. They never took for granted the fact that their planet was safe from the threat of the parasite, and they kept a watchful eye out for any signs of infection. The people of the planet colony were never infected again, and they were able to enjoy many years of peace and prosperity. They had come through a difficult situation, but they had emerged stronger and more unified than ever.